let the torch of freedom burn.
You found your way to the intersection of faith and the culture. It's WallBuilders Live, and we're talking about today's hottest topics on policy and faith and the culture, all these different areas, but we look at them from a biblical, historical, and constitutional perspective. We do that with David Barton. He's America's premier historian and our founder here at WallBuilders. With Tim Barton, national speaker and pastor and president of WallBuilders. And my name is Rick Green. I'm a former Texas legislator and known as America's Constitution coach. We appreciate you joining us today here listening to the program, but we also want to encourage you to visit our websites, wallbuilders.com and wallbuilderslive.com. At either one of those, you're going to get a wealth of information, all kinds of great tools to equip and inspire you to make a difference, to be a good citizen, and to actually bring back, to literally be the catalyst in your community to bring back biblical and constitutional principles to the forefront of our nation. We love teaching these things, and we love hearing the good stories of people that are out there using the tools that we provide you with to make a difference in your culture. So send in your emails, send us some reports on what you're doing as Constitution coaches, if you're hosting Constitution classes in your community, or if you're taking this material and in other ways, teaching and sharing with other people. We'd love to hear those positive stories, and we'd love to have your questions about foundational principles. You can send those in to radio@wallbuilders.com. All right, guys, we got one of our veteran interviews today, a World War II veteran. We always enjoy doing these, but it's a guy that fought at Okinawa, and unless actually for most of us in America that weren't around during World War II, when we talk about Okinawa, they, Karate Kids for the first thing we think of, and Mr. Miyagi being from Okinawa, and that's about it. So we need some context here of where this fit in the Pacific Islands and in World War II.
Battle of Okinawa, part of the Pacific Theater. This happens as World War II is coming to an end in Europe. Battle of Okinawa starts April 1st, 1945. It is the largest amphibious operation in the entire Pacific Theater. Nothing was a bigger combined battle for all forces than this one at Okinawa. It went 82 days. It was an 82-day long battle. It is the bloodiest battle in the entire Pacific Theater. There were 12,000 Americans killed. There were 36,000 wounded. And grab this, 100,000 Japanese were killed. Only 8,000 Japanese surrendered at the end of this thing. They refused to surrender. They were into suicides and suicide bombing and everything else. There were 100,000 civilians killed in this. The Japanese civilians, same kind of problem. So Japanese families were actually given a hand grenade and said, if we don't win this battle, don't let the Americans take you, blow yourself up.
Well, in fact, David, wasn't that a big part of why we knew the bombs had to be dropped because of what happened at Iwo Jima and Okinawa? Iwo Jima with the military itself, but Okinawa, now you got citizens doing the same thing. We know if we have to invade on the ground, it's going to be like that.
Well, they have a suicide mentality in many ways, not only with the people, but also in that period, in the war, over a 2-day period, the Japanese launched 350 suicide planes, 360 suicide boats. In 2 days, they sunk 36 American ships, and 24 of them were sunk by kamikaze planes. So, I mean, it was all about kill ourselves.
And also, just for perspective for the audience, Hacksaw Ridge, which was a movie that's been out just in the last couple of years, it highlights the story of Desmond Doss, the conscientious objector, who ends up being the medic and just saved so many American lives. Really a very powerful movie. It's rated R because of the violence of depicting really what went on there in part of this battle. Well, Hacksaw Ridge happens as part of this Battle of Okinawa. So if people have seen that movie and what the American forces were up against, and the mentality of the Japanese is displayed fairly well in Hacksaw Ridge. Just again, for perspective, that was another aspect that happened at Okinawa.
Yeah, and it was so bloody for so many reasons because the Americans did not want to lose lives. I mean, that was not the objective. So they bombed Okinawa with over 30,000 bombs, just trying to dislodge the Japanese. But Okinawa is an island that is laced with caves. There's one hill called Chocolate Drop Hill. It's about 130 feet high. And there are 500 cave entrances in that one hill. And so, the planes would come by and drop it, but we didn't have Moab bombs back then. You couldn't blow the whole hill up. So the Japanese would get inside these caves. They would hide there. We would try our best to get them dislodged. And so with people who refused to surrender, we're literally going into hand-to-hand combat through these caves to clean them out of the caves. They have no intention of surrendering, which is why it was such a high casualty rate for the Americans. The Japanese, and again, going back to what you said, that's why we had to drop the atomic bomb, because they refused to surrender. And no matter, they did not win a single battle in the Pacific Theater once we started moving across there, and they just wouldn't give up. They're going to commit suicide. They're going to take everyone with them. And that's where we said, no, we've lost enough American soldiers. So the Battle of Okinawa, absolutely unimaginable battle to be part of. Tim, as you said, with Hacksaw Ridge, Desmond Doss, you get a pretty good portrayal of the attitude there. But this is a veteran. Harry McKnight was a veteran there at Okinawa, and just hearing his story of what happened in Okinawa and what was around him, and you understand the context of what that battle was, you'll understand the story a lot better.
Quick break. We'll be right back, folks. Tim Barton is going to be interviewing veteran Harry McKnight from World War II. You're listening to WallBuilders Live. Hey, friends, if you've been listening to WallBuilders Live for very long at all, you know how much we respect our veterans and how appreciative we are of the sacrifice they make to make our freedoms possible. One of the ways that we love to honor those veterans is to tell their stories here on WallBuilders Live. Once in a while, we get an opportunity to interview veterans that have served on those front lines, that have made incredible sacrifices, have amazing stories that we want to share with the American people. One of the very special things we get to do is interview World War II veterans. You've heard those interviews here on WallBuilders Live, from folks that were in the Band of Brothers to folks like Edgar Harrell that survived the Indianapolis, to so many other great stories you've heard on WallBuilders Live. You have friends and family that also serve. If you have World War II veterans in your family that you would like to have their story shared here on WallBuilders Live, please email us at radio@wallbuilders.com. radio@wallbuilders.com. Give us a brief summary of the story, and we'll set up an interview. Thanks so much for sharing here on WallBuilders Live.
Welcome back to WallBuilders Live. This is Tim Barton. I'm joined by Lieutenant Colonel McKnight, who fought in World War II, and it's always an honor to be able to speak with a World War II veteran. Mr. McKnight, thank you so much for being with us today.
My pleasure.
Well, Mr. McKnight, you were part of the Marines. Did you fight in the European theater or Pacific theater, or part of both?
Okinawa, mostly.
What led you to get from joining the military all the way to Okinawa?
When I graduated from high school, at East High School, I was a pretty good athlete, football, track, and swimming. When I graduated, I went out to join the Marines. They said they had all the Marines I needed, so I said, all right. So I went to my physical examination downtown, and so they put me in a group that was going to go to the Navy. I said, well, that's okay. I guess I can swim. I was on the swimming team. So anyway, I was in the group that was going to go to Great Lakes, and then a sergeant came in and says, McKnight, come with me. You're in the Marines. I said, oh, good. So he said, here's your ticket. Your train leaves in a half an hour. Oh, I said, wow.
Wow. Yeah, you didn't get much of a heads up or warning time then before you had to go.
So I called my dad, and he came down, gave me my toothbrush and a razor. And so I was off on the train. We stopped in Cincinnati and was sworn in to the Marine Corps, and then went on down to Paris Island. So in Paris Island, I got off the train and went to a bus. Oh, some of the guys were watching and said, you'll be sorry.
They were telling you that you would be sorry?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
They sent me into a line, and first they sent us to a barber and shaved all the hair off our head, and then put us in a shower and got us cleaned up, and then went through a line to get our Marine Corps outfit, all the shirts and stuff was needed, and a rifle. The next day we were doing close order drill, and DI says, McKnight and Stedman front and center. So we walked out in front. He says, now, you other guys watch these guys there. Look like they're doing it okay. Okay. Right face. And I turned left.
Oh,
I'm
no.
looking at Stedman, and I said, oh, my. Then I did a quick about face. DI comes up, starts kicking me in the shins, right just in front of my nose. He said, the swollen one is your right leg.
Oh, oh no.
So I paid attention from now on.
Oh,
I soon found out what they were trying to do. They're trying to teach us to react regardless of thinking. And so when you're in combat, you follow orders, you just do it, you know.
and Mr. McKnight, you did end up seeing combat over in Okinawa, isn't that right?
Yes, we left Paris Island and went down to Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. And that was for advanced training. And that's when I realized that the Marine Corps does everything alphabetically. So they separated us alphabetically, and our platoon there was Mick something. Everybody was a Mick. It was started out with 4 Mahonies, and then everybody else was McGee and McKnight and McTurius and McDermott and all that kind of stuff. And when we would march to Chow, somebody would say, hi, Mac, and we all looked up. Then we got on an overland train and went out to California. We went into some advanced training where we learned how to make our own weapons, how to throw hand grenades, how to make hand grenades. And it was, night training was interesting because we had to sneak at night and go through the lines of the other groups without being detected and learn how to figure out what the noises are.
How much of this training did you utilize once you got over to Okinawa?
Quite a bit, yeah. We shipped out of San Diego and we stopped at Inuitok for water, and I was enjoying myself until they put me on guard duty near the mess hall. And the guys would barf in their helmets, and that was no fun. And I was laughing at it. Pretty soon I got sick, and I ran up and barfed over the side.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So anyway, we ended up at Guam. Now, Guam was a territory of the United States. And on my birthday, Guam was invaded by the Japanese because it was the big air base there where the bombers landed. The Japanese just loved those people there, too. A lot of them deserted and married the Guamanians and lived out in the boondocks until the war was over.
Wow.
Once in a while, they would sneak in our lines and dress up like Marines and go through the chow line.
Wow.
And this one wanted to have seconds, and the sergeant said, no seconds, Mac. And then Jap didn't understand what he said. And he said, wait a minute. He took his helmet off and said, oh, get out of here.
Wow.
So then we went from there to Okinawa. And we arrived at night, and the kamikazes were flying, and the sky was just red with tracers. He said, what outfit, Mac? And they said, H-329. I said, what the heck is H-329? Is this H Company, 3rd Battalion, 29th Marines. I said, oh, that's who we are now, right? Yep. He said, yep. So I had good buddies by the name of McTurius, Mahoney. I didn't like seeing our buddies killed and wounded.
Right.
For example, McTurius, he got the Medal of Honor for his stuff because he got interested in the Japanese that were shooting our litter bearers. They used the Red Cross on their helmet for target practice. And there was 2 caves almost side by side, and the Japanese had their machine guns in there and other rifles and stuff. And so McTurius decided he was going to take care of them. So he filled his shirt with hand grenades and crawled up and threw the hand grenades in the first cave and killed them. And in the meantime, he got wounded to the stomach. So he held his stomach together, crawled back, got more grenades, and came back in and got the other one. And from that, he was offered the Medal of Honor. The reason I knew about it is somebody said, "Hey, Mac, your buddy McTurius got hit." And I said, "Oh, wow." And he said, "I don't know, but he's on his way to the hospital ship." So I figured, well, he should be okay. But 2 days later, I got a letter from his mother that he had died of his wounds on the way to Guam.
Wow. And Mr. McKnight, as you're landing in Okinawa, I know that at some point you were even fired at and even had snipers shooting at you. Would you mind telling part of that story?
They put me in the machine gun squad. I had another buddy in there. Your job is to make sure that the machine gunners don't get killed. So you carry the ammunition and a rifle, and you're with them in the squad. And we were sitting on the side of a road, and I heard a pling about 10 feet to my left. It was a sniper shot. And I thought, boy, that Jap can't hit this broadside of a barn. And then just ping, just exactly halfway. And I said, oh, he's picked up a strange rifle and he's checking it out. The next shot will be right at me. So I got up and left and went up to the side of the hill. And another friend of mine went out and sit down in that same spot. And I said, get out of there. That spot's been zeroed in. And just as he stood up, he took a shot right through the knee, which had been right through my chest.
Wow.
A little later on, I was looking at a funny-looking bush about 500 yards away, and I saw a 20-millimeter blast and a 20-millimeter coming right at me. It was going up, and it was coming down, and I just ducked my head to the left, and it went over my shoulder. And the squad leader said, hey, Mac, did you just duck a 20? I said, yeah, it's a good thing I was paying attention.
Wow.
C Company had about 240 men, and they went up the hill charging the Japanese on Sugarloaf Hill, and 15 of them came back down. So I thought every time I look out there, I borrowed some binoculars from my friend John, and he said, John, I think I know what's going on. He said, what do you think? I said, well, the Japanese machine gun fires at our H Company, and they all hit the deck. And then when they get up to start going again, they fire again. And then there's a long silence, and I see what's going on. There's a Japanese, he was an ammunition guy. He would run up the hill and come back, and then the machine gun would go again. I said, you know, he passes through spaces in the rocks. And I said, it's about 400 yards, and if I see him going up again through the first space, I'll time him when he gets to the second space. And so when he gets to the second space, I'll have a shot waiting on him. So I did. I timed him in first space. The muzzle velocity is 3,200 feet per second, and converted the 400 yards into feet. And then I fired and got him. And John said, my man, what a great shot that was.
Wow. So where were you when we finally get peace in Japan? Were you still in the middle of fighting, or were you on a ship somewhere else? Where were you when things finally wrapped up?
We were in Guam when things finally wrapped up. Well, I remember Mahoney. He said, it's just like you're playing football. You go through the line and just boom, 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 something hits you and down you go. He said, the machine gun through my chest. A corpsman came out to help him, and the corpsman got killed. And they took them both to Graves Registration. And Graves Registration, one guy said, hey, this Marine moved his foot. He's not dead. So he was sent to Guam, to the Naval Hospital on Guam.
Wow.
We had firefight after firefight, just going and doing what we could do and surviving.
Yeah. Mr. McKnight, I want to tell you, we are so grateful that you did survive, but more importantly, that you went and did something so significant in a place so dangerous, ultimately so that Americans could have freedom and not be under oppression and the tyranny and all the things that you saw and went through. We are so grateful for what you did, and certainly that you are still with us today and able to share part of your story. So sincerely, we do appreciate it, and I want to say thank you for taking time to share part of this with us.
Yeah, and I would do it again if asked.
Well, and Mr. McKnight, I think that's why we label your generation as the greatest generation, because of all you did, and God willing, we will never have to do something like that again, but we appreciate what you did, and thank you for taking time to share part of your story with us today. We are back now with David Barton and Rick Green, and guys, always a pleasure talking to World War II veterans. The stories are just boggling, and someone who can recount some of what happened in Okinawa really is amazing.
Well, he just kind of made the comment in passing. He said, yeah, we were in firefight after firefight. Oh my gosh, 82 days of firefights and essentially 212,000 killed in those days. It is amazing. The Japanese had so few wounded compared to all those that were killed because they wouldn't stop. But he talks about having the sniper zero in on him. And he told his buddy, hey, you don't want to sit there. The sniper's got us zeroed in. And then he talks about ducking a 20-millimeter round. He saw it coming at him and moved his head and went right by and whizzed by his. How do you?
That's the grace of God, is what that is. Oh, man.
Tim, you and I had opportunity to be with some SEALs, and we were doing some shooting out at the ranch with SEALs, and they were talking about how they could visually track a bullet. They could watch it going through the air. And for somebody like me, they said, no way. There is no. And they said, no, that's going to hit right or left.
You see the vapor trail going like, oh, yeah, trailing off to the left. We got it.
Yeah. And so for him to see a 20-millimeter coming at him and move his head out of the way, it's like, oh, my gosh, I can't even imagine what that's like. But even going back to his early start, I mean, the fact he walks into a recruiting office and 30 minutes later he's on a train going to war. He's enlisted, and 30 minutes later he's there. And I loved his story. And when he got to California, and he was doing pretty good in close order drills, and so the drill sergeant pulled him out and said right turn, and he turned left, and he walked up and kicked him in the shin and said, the swollen leg is your right leg. Just what they went through back then is so different from anything we think of now. But man, if it had not been for guys like that going out, and he even talked about his Medal of Honor buddy who got killed there going into the caves and clearing the caves out, the very things we were talking about at the beginning. He just talks about it casually, and the cost and the sacrifice of what those guys did, what they saw, what they went through. I mean, it's hard to praise them enough for what they did.
Well, and also considering this is before the day when largely post-traumatic stress was recognized. And so, right, with you being in a firefight for weeks and weeks and weeks on end, and the things you saw, friends being shot, friends dying around you, the emotional, the mental burden that you have to bear in the midst of that, it really does give such a great level of respect at a time when, largely you're just told, hey, be a man, kind of bury those emotions, those feelings, just be tough, shake it off, whatever else. These guys really, as they're referred to as the greatest generation. We get it. We've heard that a lot, but man, what they went through is so impressive. And certainly the furthest thing from a snowflake, because if you're in boot camp and you're getting kicked in the shin by your sergeant and he's saying, hey, the swollen one's on your right side, that wouldn't really fly as well today. But this was just a different generation, and we're so grateful for who they are and what they did.
And this is really something I think we all should learn. And guys, when we talk about World War II, one of the things we do is we show the current AP history standards. And when you open to the World War II section, it does not mention D-Day. It does not mention Iwo Jima. It does not mention Okinawa. It mentions none of these battles, the Battle of Midway or anything else, Battle of the Bulge. And so that is such a huge part of our history, our military history, our World War II history. This is the bloodiest battle in the Pacific, and we don't even mention it anymore. It's the bloodiest Marine Corps battle in history, and we don't even mention it. And so to have a veteran who is there still alive tell us about it, what a treasure that is. But everyone should spend a little bit of time studying World War II history and look at battles like the Battle of Okinawa.
Well, special thanks today for Harry McKnight for joining us and being a part of our program and sharing such an amazing story. We hope you enjoy these stories. We've actually got a CD that has some of the best veteran interviews that we've had over the years. You can get those at our website, WallBuilders.com. And, it's just important to capture these stories, to share these stories. It's important for us to remember the price of freedom. You may have some veterans in your family that have never shared their story with the family. I would encourage you to sit them down, take out the home video and get the family, circled around them and get them to share those stories, record those stories for posterity, for your particular family. Those are things that should not be forgotten. Ronald Reagan talked about if we forget what we did, we won't know who we are. And that happens way too often in our American culture because we do so little in terms of teaching civics in our education system anymore. We forget how important these roles are. And if you don't remember what we did and you don't remember the sacrifice of previous generations, it's less likely that future generations will be willing to make similar sacrifices if called upon to do so. So, take what we've done here on the program as we do these veteran interviews and share them with our audience across the nation, and do the same thing in your own family. We encourage you to take advantage of that opportunity. Be sure to check out WallBuildersLive.com today, where you can get in the archive section previous programs from several months back. You can get some of our Good News Friday programs, Foundations of Freedom programs, you name it. They're all available right there on the website, and that's where you can also make a contribution to WallBuilders to help us continue this great work. Thanks for listening today. You've been listening to WallBuilders Live.
We stand undivided, forever